Well, we have a brilliant show ahead of us. So, Paul, what are you looking forward to most?
I'm looking forward to seeing all the military and amphibious vehicles, and plus the abundance of classic cars that I believe is going to be there.
Absolutely, it's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be great.
Loads of amphibians. There's even going to be a fly past of a Hurricane and a Lancaster, which should be great. There's a dog show. There's going to be all those wonderful traditional boats, lots of polish and brass and all that kind of stuff.
And lots of lovely food, I believe, as well.
Yes, the Cricket Billet pub is legendary in its service and sort of offerings, so it should be quite good fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I might even buy you an ice cream.
No, I can't wait.
Now, I've already entered the Stuart Turner Prize competition, but next thing I need to do is actually find a judge. So while I do that, do you want to tie up the boat?
Certainly.
Brilliant. Let's fingers crossed this is going to work. Right then, apparently there is quite a list of things we're going to be marked on. 30 items in 5 categories. Engine static, engine running, originality to factory specification, installation and questions, all adding up to a maximum possible total of 100 points. I found Adrian, our judge, who's worked at Stuart Turner for over 15 years, so he definitely knows his stuff. Let's see how we get on.
Enjoy the water safely.
Water injection, a lot of the times they have dry exhaust.
Okay.
But putting the water in there does tend to reduce the carbon build-up. Two strokes are a bit sooty in the exhaust.
Yeah.
That does reduce it.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so that is not stopped, but it's actually something that would have been done as a...
Yeah, that originally would have been to a skin fitting and you can see it, but if you hear the water splashing in the exhaust, it makes it a bit quieter.
Yeah, that
keeps it cleaner.
Now it's pretty cold up there.
I'll look at this and get some idea of the age of it. It's quite an old engine.
That'd be great, yeah, because I was trying to work that out, because the boat is 58, and I believe the P5M was done from around then anyway, so potentially, I suppose it could be a later version. But so would this have come as a kit?
Or something like that.
When somebody bought an engine, there was a standard installation equipment. So a propeller, a certain length of prop shaft, certain length of stern tube.
Okay.
But then you could change it, make it. The boat shapes were never the same.
No, of course.
Fuel tank. It was an installation package, even I think down to the fastening.
That's really interesting.
So probably ahead of its time, because to go around and try and get suitable parts.
Yes.
Not easy. So,
and then with the Dynastart, would it have come with the Dynastart out of the factory?
I don't think, no, that isn't an original. There was a Dynastart offered, mounted in a similar position, but that is not the make that was offered with it, so that's a retro.
I'm not sure how standard that is.
Well,
it's
close, it's been modified, they were usually longer, but that looks like a steel one, where originally they were brass, so,
And how did it deal with the actual silencing? Was it just perforated tubing inside, or was there actually, because there wouldn't be wadding presumably because of the water?
There was, well, it was a dry exhaust, so there was wadding in there.
Right, so that's probably why they've changed that then, so they changed that when they changed.
A lot of it, people just put the water through it.
Yeah.
There could be wadding. You had to take the end off to extract it all. But it was basically the engine came in with a perforated tube, allowing it to expand into the remaining.
No, that's cool. And would it had a nicer ring to it when it was sort of made out of brass rather than the steel, do you think? Or would that really not change the sound?
I think there's, some people have the skin fitting low down, it coughs on the water.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Starting handle, that's a gear lever. Did you have a starting handle?
No, not with it. So obviously we can use that. So I guess that was one of your sort of magical multi-use tools.
Oh dear.
Sometimes it's not so. The other one had a sort of proper grip to it.
Oh, okay. So you can actually yes, okay.
Sometimes our dogs don't want to come
But
out.
if you do, you cup it in case it backfires.
Yeah, you don't want to lose your thumbs. Yeah. So right now we are. We started out just following the instructions we found online actually for Stuart Turner, which was we tried the 30 grade just to start it the first time, and I think that said it was 25 to 1, but that was way too rich. So we've now got a bio oil. We're running at about, I think. Well, it started at about 30, going up to about 50 to 1, because I think it seems to run much better.
Well, it always was 50.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Right. So that's interesting. So
a
there's
third of a pint to 2 gallons, or 50
Oh, that's interesting.
cc's to a litre.
Yeah. Okay. So and then how they? I mean, we're now just using a modern biodegradable
Synthetic,
two-stroke or marine two-stroke. So obviously it stays in suspension better. But is that okay for these or?
It seems, I mean, people, when the synthetic started to appear, some people were very cautious of them.
Yeah.
Saying no, still use the old,
Oh dear.
if you like, fixed grade oil.
Now we
Let it
call this a
dissolve in the
wrist
bed.
toe.
But I think
So
now
maybe
the synthetic
actually
probably,
holding the hand
Tick.
and some people find that they can actually reduce the oil content.
Okay.
The exhaust runs cleaner.
Yes. Well, that was what we found out. So the very first time we ran it up, obviously it ran up beautifully, but then very quickly, obviously you can see the oil, and then we have found then also on the first run, the plugs exactly started oiling up, so I had to drain out the head sort of more quickly.
Yeah.
So then once that's done the first time, now we're on the bio oil. It seems much better. Actually.
Yeah.
So that's
Where were
interesting.
Stuart engines made?
Tick.
Right.
Fantastic.
An engine number there, P5M,
Yep.
the basic engine, 57681, and you're 649. So any, that was probably in the early part of 58.
So it probably was.
Yeah.
It could well be the original engine then.
Tick.
That's
Do a lot
fantastic.
of training.
Oh, that's very exciting.
So, yeah, match gear, engine gearbox. Paintwork is pretty original. I mean, it's got the
Tick.
patina of age and
Yes.
corrosion. But yeah, that's modified, as you say, for the engine box, and
It's interesting.
a couple of works plates on there.
Tick.
Yes.
Yeah, sort of thing. People just run them for ages on it.
Yeah.
Okay, new fuel line in there.
Yeah, what we put in, I mean, that was just basically when we had the boat safety certificate done recently. One of the things you wanted to do was sort out things like the connectors on the battery and bits and pieces, and then and obviously the fuel. There were lots and lots of connections in the fuel line. We just figured that probably the vibration was enough to shake them apart. So we just thought the connector would work better.
Yeah.
But, although Adam doesn't like tap, which is, it came with the boat, so I guess we could find a
Yeah, I
more
think
original looking one. With the
the originals were, if you like, a slider one, on and off. Around one side and a hexagon the other, so you could feel when you get to know it.
Yes.
But they had a fibre washer on a brass slider, and of course that could dry out and stuff, and they could sweat or weep.
Okay, so this is actually.
I think the modern, that's probably a diaphragm valve or a ball valve in there.
Yeah.
Much more reliable.
Yeah.
Tick.
But not as original looking.
Yeah.
Is there any? Because if I can get hold of a brass looking thing, I think we'll give that a go. But I think with the other boats that are in the competition, how have they treated that? Have they-
There's some are original, some are modified. I think with petrol and boats today, you've got to, safety has got to be the prime thing.
Yeah.
So originality, I think, some things you've got to compromise on. That's certainly not a works.
No. So what
Style.
would have had? Because that is quite a.
It was quite a simple panel with an on-off switch, a push button for starter, sometimes an ammeter.
Okay. Presumably you have photographs from you, or is there an archive? Do you think?
So this is
Those bits
actually a
would have been so we could
puppy.
maybe get.
Sometimes.
About 60 kilos already.
Stuart Turner
So
Boat
he's taking
Show.
the
Yes, he's here. Yeah.
He seems to be doing most of the spares now, and more seriously than some of the transitionals. Bear in mind, 50 years since the company's got them. But he seems to want to get it back, and he's making bits based on actual components.
So that'd be really cool. Okay, so there's an opportunity to at least, because I mean I think that box is quite unhandsome. It'd be good nice to kind of tidy that up a little bit.
Definitely in the winter, drain it now.
Yes, okay.
Otherwise, so many engines are left frost, crack the cylinder.
Right.
All these castings are extremely difficult, and it's probably now cannibalised from other engines.
Yes. Okay.
Starts well.
Tick. Because of the flywheel, they're fairly slow to change their speeds. Yeah.
It's been very good up to now. As I say, after a long run, sometimes have to obviously just drain the oil out of the heads. So the other day we left it for a couple of weeks, and I think it was because of the heavier oil still coming through, to be honest. So,
Yeah. No, the synthetic do that fairly well. So,
The throttle adjustment was quite a crude way of, in fact, looks like a piece of something in there.
Right.
But that cap was obviously just usually tapped to deform it, and it's that little collar went onto the boss on the end of the cap. So they were tapped, just bent to shape and stuff, not relying on this.
So is that? I mean, so that is standard. And
That was
and obviously
originally, yeah.
working.
Yeah, it looks as if there's something in there. But she's running pretty smooth.
Yeah,
Tick.
I mean, one of the things, I haven't adjusted the carburetor or anything.
Unbelievable.
Yet. It was fine when we got it.
That is the air cap. But screwing it in weakens the mixture.
Right.
There's an air gap on a cone paper. So just if it is oiling up too much,
Then you can
we just screw it in a bit and weaken the mixture.
Okay.
Right, we're going here.
I think we're okay. Yeah, go for it.
See that? The throttle interlock's working.
Yeah.
Tick. Tick.
That cone was sticking there.
Yes.
Did it?
So is it like a sort of like a veteran car where you have to oil the cones sometimes?
No, because the gearbox.
That does it.
That's the filler plug,
Yeah.
and there's a.
Yeah, we drew the drain just on
There's
the,
a
just on
drain
the edge
there.
of that little plate, so it's sort
usually
of, just down here.
yeah.
So yeah, so we took I
Got
put
it.
on
And the dipstick is only for the gearbox and chain case level.
right.
Because there's a chain in there that comes up and feeds, drives that
Oh,
shaft.
of course, yes.
So it's only splash lubrication.
Yeah. Nice and simple. Really.
Okay. Right, I think I'm all right. So we can shut it off, yeah. That is a pretty standard key that you would get from from a lawnmower
Yes.
place.
No,
or
exactly. No, it was
Yeah.
fun. We had we were wondering whether we were going to get the keys back, but we had unfortunately not. So we've now got a little replacement, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But I just thought, partly just to mess with Adam's OCD, to be honest.
It probably would confuse most of it coming on board. Okay,
That's
I think
great.
that's all.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you very much.
I thought as much.
Oh, hello, sir. You could be just the man. I'm Ed.
Red.
Oh, you're Ed. Fantastic.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Two Eds are better than one. Liking it.
Beat me to it.
So you are literally specialising in Stuart Turner motors.
I am. So the R3M, P5, 55, P6 and 66 engines, commonly used in the marine environment. Parts are hard to come by, so I started making a lot of the gaskets. I make myself, some of the rarer nuts like that I'm making myself. So anything we can't get from good used spares, we have to either refurbish
Or make yourself.
or make ourselves.
That is fantastic.
That's
And
what
you're
I'm
doing everything. I mean, obviously you've got like the Seacock, you've got propellers, you've got, in fact, even the magnetos.
Yeah.
That's
I've
amazing. So in fact, our magneto was made by Lucas.
Yeah.
It's been butchered, but actually now it's being used as points essentially. So was this what would have been fitted as standard?
No, the Lucas was used on them as well, a very common one.
Yeah.
I have Lucas magnetos as well. We can rebuild those, we can get the coils or the parts for those. The Lucas is actually the easier one to find the parts for at the moment.
Brilliant. Well, I
we
think
can
most
resurrect that.
Yeah, that's good because most of it works. But I think one of the previous owners was saying that basically the coil I guess, got a little bit tired. It just became more and more unreliable, and so they ended up just using the points because they had a 12 volt. We've got a Dynastart, or at least a Dynastart copy.
Yeah,
so this is what the real thing is, because that's the thing as well. We haven't got the
Dynastart.
real deal. So that's very interesting. So was there the circuitry that goes with this? Is there anything particularly complicated, or like kind of
No,
switches and things?
the regulator that goes with that also had integrated with it the start
Brilliant.
function, but you don't have that. The modern regulators, so we've got something like that Bosch unit there would work with that,
Okay.
and you just use a separate solenoid for the starter.
Yeah, simple.
But the magneto, I've got coils and things for the Lucas SR magneto, so you could just resurrect that, and you wouldn't need your external coil either.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I mean, I don't want to lose any reliability though, so I'm slightly nervous about that. But I guess once it's the right and
Some people use magnetos for reliability. The fire brigade specify them on a lot of their pumps and things for the reliability. You don't need any. If you've got no battery power left, you can still hand start your engine
That's
if everything's on
yeah.
magneto.
So
Okay.
you've even got a piston there as well.
I have,
cool, isn't
and I have many more of those in the
Look at size of
workshop.
that catching pin.
It's very, very cute.
tiny,
I
isn't
mean,
it?
look at the size of that. It's absolutely tiny. But I mean, so this is the thing that I was talking about earlier on. Of course, when we were sort of playing around with our Stuart Turner early on, looking at I found a drawing about it, and of course this is the thing. So this was the ski slope that we found that actually kind of pushes that fuel air mixture from the crankcase right up into the head, isn't it? So that's to kind of swirl it around. So it's really nice to actually see it for real. I know I could have taken our engine apart, but this is quite nice. Very, very cool. Is that the only one you've got?
The only one I've got that's in brand new condition. I have some other older ones still in their wax paper, but they're cast iron rather than aluminium, so not as shiny as that, as I'm afraid.
Amazing.
But
that's
I've
great.
got
So you-
original cast iron
That's
ones as
amazing
well.
stuff. So there really doesn't seem to be anything you don't do, but if there is something you don't do, you're still going to just go and make it or sort it anyway.
That's right.
Well, that was food for thought. It's great to know we can get all those bits and pieces for the Stuart Turner engine to keep it alive.
Yeah, and what a nice guy he was. Talking about food, should we go and get something to eat?
Yes, I think the pub is that way.
Come on in.
Well, that judging didn't go very well, did it?
It's our first attempt. We've got all year to get sorted out.
Now, a really interesting thing happened the other night, actually. We were just coming in to have a quick look, see what was going on, and a bloke shouts out, "Oi, that's my boat."
Really?
And it turns out that Martin is actually a previous owner of Hafren. In fact, his wife was the person who named the boat Hafren because at the time they had a big steam launch from 1870, like
Wow.
properly old, and that was called Sabrina, and Sabrina is the Latin name for Hafren.
What a small world.
And you never guess what else.
Go on.
Word got out, and it turns out there was another previous owner, a chap called Mike, who also had lots to say about the boat. So I thought it'd be quite cool just to get us all together and have a bit of a chinwag.
What a good idea.
Now this is really exciting. We've actually found two of the previous owners of Hafren. So we've got Martin and Mike. Now, who was first out of you two?
I was the first owner of
Okay.
Hafren, and she was bought as a means of getting my wife, who was partially disabled, from Hurleylock down to Temple Island, where we kept our steam launch Sabrina. So Sabrina was a steam launch of 54 foot, and Hafren was her tender.
That's lovely.
I can't remember how many years we had it, but that's where the name Hafren came from.
Okay.
Sabrina, which was built in 1870, has had her name all that time. She served with the Sharpness to Gloucester Canal for a period of 75 years before being sold on to private hands. And she came round via Land's End to the Thames, where she was used as a houseboat in Rickmansworth.
That's amazing.
And then somebody discovered her there, put the steam plant back in it, and we bought it some years later when she came up for auction at Henley here. We had 25 years of absolutely wonderful time, but I say my wife was disabled, so hence Hafren was purchased as basically a disability boat.
I love that. I think that's fantastic.
Which we kept us using it all the time. And then when Sabrina had to go because my wife was so ill, Mike came along and purchased both of them, which was fantastic.
So Mike, so you ended up buying Sabrina and Hafren?
Well, to buy Sabrina, I sort of
Lusted
Sabrina,
after it.
I'd sort of lusted after, as it were, for years. Seeing her on the Thames with Martin at the helm etc., etc. And suddenly she came on the market, and it was a case of I've got to have that boat. Being a bit of steam freak. Unbeknown to me, sort of Hafren came along as a bit of a package, because in order to get to Sabrina, where mooring was on Temple Island or Temple Lock, you needed a boat, and there was Hafren, and I couldn't believe that this little wooden boat would sort of almost take over my life. Whereas Sabrina is near enough 150 years old, and one of the oldest steamboats in the Thames, still going, as it were.
Wow.
Little Hafren would transport us about to get to the island. And yes, Hafren has got that. There's something about a wooden boat, and almost the smaller it is, the better it is. So
I guess you feel more of the character, don't you? I suppose is what it is.
And yes, Hafren was an old boat in those times. I believe she started life as a hire boat at Windermere, and found her way through an auction, etc., down to Martin, and then found herself on the Thames.
So did you buy it from up?
I bought it from Windermere.
Okay, fantastic. Yep. So then, which of you did the sort of the modifications then? Because clearly, the Dynastar. I've now, you know,
the Dynastar was always there.
Okay.
I think the only thing I had to do to get it to comply with the boat safety was to put an isolation switch in.
Right.
I dispensed with the magneto because it was so unreliable. Hence the coil and point ignition, which, because there was 12-volt supply on the boat anyway, it just made to me it made sense.
Perfect sense.
I mean, it starts first time, doesn't it? Pretty much every time.
It's really
So
reliable.
as long as you've got a good battery, and I don't think I had to do much to it at all to get it through the boat safety. Bilge pump I had to change because it had the same problem as you got, in that the automatic part of it doesn't work.
Yeah. What is that about bilge pumps?
Well, when
that's
you
the
want
bit you
them,
really
it
rely
doesn't
on
work.
so much. That's the
Hence
the
me
key.
saying to you that the float switch you've probably taken out is the one you need to use.
Yes.
Because I'm not going to say what's inside it, because people won't be very happy about it.
But it's better
But it works. But it works.
Older sometimes.
But it works. Yeah. Okay. But apart from that, I don't think I did anything to it at all. And it was purchased because it was a really tough, reliable ex-hire boat built for abuse by the general public. Hence it being a really good boat to pass on as a tender.
And did you have to do much sort of work to the woodwork itself?
Nothing at all.
And how about you? Have you had any repairs?
No, I mean, my claim to fame is I probably didn't anything.
Well,
that's good. That's a good thing.
It is a good thing. I think the thing is, it does clearly need a bit more TLC. I mean, it took a long time to take up, but actually now it's doing okay. You know?
I looked after it, put it that way, but there was those little Stuart engines. They're so basic. I never had a problem starting that. The spark plug would become the sort of heart of the whole machine.
Yeah.
And if you got your fuel mixture right, this is two-stroke, got the fuel mixture right, and a clean spark plug, I could almost guarantee that I'd get on her and away she go.
Okay, actually that's a good question. So about the oil, I'm thinking, well, the fuel oil mixture, what did you run it and what did you run it at? So it'd be interesting to know.
I was, because I'm involved in the marine trade anyway, which involved two-stroke outboards, we always used a synthetic oil as a two-stroke, and I can't remember, it was 40 or 50 to 1, which is far higher ratio, far lower ratio than Stuart Turner's would have used using ordinary engine oil. You don't get the separation. It's the oils we typically use on outboard now are biodegradable, and it just saves it cloaking up quite so much.
Yes.
I think the mistake a lot of people make is if you look at the fuel filler cap,
it tells you.
Says, I think it's 25, 50 or whatever it is to 1, but remember now,
but it says engine oil,
you don't need to go to those ratios.
So these modern oils are so much better.
And it stops
I don't know what you're using now.
Well, we started out when we first set it up, it was the 30 grade, just because that's what it said in the instructions.
So
and that fell out of the fuel instantly.
You had a cloud of smoke behind you.
Huge. It was like a fog machine. And so then we found actually in one of the sort of the stowaways, we actually found you know, just some normal biodegradable oil and been using that.
would have been for me.
Oh, there we go.
That would have been for me.
Well, thank you for that, because that's made all the difference, actually.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing, the first time we took it out, it was wonderful, wasn't it? It was just a really lovely day.
Beautiful, a bit like this, wasn't it? Lovely weather.
Yeah.
Up and down. We did have,
ran
I think
beautifully.
the spark plug oiled up once, didn't it?
Yeah.
But apart
And I
from
left
that,
the cap tightened up on the fuel tank, of course, so it couldn't get any air back in. So of
we
course,
had a really good day.
But there's a little tiny hole in there.
there is, but I think you have to have it undone a tiny bit. Then you for that tiny hole.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But you probably find that the joint underneath there was causing the problem.
Unless the hole is blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be
And then
possible.
obviously by you undoing it, obviously makes it.
But that was enough to keep it going
Yeah.
again, which was wonderful. And I think the nice thing was that we left it sort of out for about maybe a week or so, came back to it, and that's when, of course, all that oil had fallen out of the fuel.
Separated out,
And so I had to kind of blow it all back and stuff, and
Yeah.
then we added the other side. And then ever since then, it's been fine. So that's been wonderful. So is there anything that you guys would do to, I mean, did it ever have cushions? Did it ever have a bimini or anything?
It had a canopy at the rear end, didn't it? That's all it had. There were no seat cushions. There was nothing.
So any ideas where we might find that?
Well, yeah, we'll have to have a little rummage.
But no, you don't need it. Sorry, this is a little classic wooden boat.
Okay.
If you need cushions,
Then it's the wrong boat.
you're wrong boat.
Or the wrong person.
Yeah, but somebody of this man's height, with his knees up in his nostrils.
That is, I do kind of like I'm a praying mantis, to be fair.
I must admit, when I was on the tiller for the day, I did have a sore bottom of it.
Yeah.
So, did you regret sort of something? Have you gone back to the same sort of thing? Or?
I haven't tried every night, but
Oh, no, okay.
it was a big mistake. That she reached a point, unfortunately, where it needed someone to come along and say, "I'm going to take her out of the water, go through her, restore her, and make her good again." And, I didn't have the wherewithal or facilities to do it. Unfortunately, I now look at her now, and I'm so in love with that boat. It is unreal.
Well, maybe we'll have a
That's fine.
conversation.
That's fine. I mean, the delivery can be arranged.
We do now have a trailer for it.
Yeah, we do have a
actually,
trailer for it.
Well,
So
that was I think if you're going to have something like these little boats, it is possibly necessary that you need to get them out of the water every now and then.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about permanently out of the water, because wood survives in water.
Yeah.
But you can take it home, clean it up a bit, tart it up, put a varnish here and there, keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
They will last forever.
And obviously, what's wonderful about this show, of course, we've got so many boats that are so old, like hundreds of years old. And obviously, a boat like this, it's amazing that the condition it's in. So I mean, so how much upkeep really is it?
This one's not too bad at all. Winter time is the time when you do most of the maintenance. Obviously, temperature-wise, varnish-wise, you can't do that through the winter. So early spring, when it's drying off and warm enough, that's the only time you can do it. But the rest of it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah.
Sabrina was built in 1870, and she's now away on the sharpness to Gloucester Canal, where with new owners, and I suspect they'll be spending millions on restoring it, because it's the oldest steamboat around.
Yeah.
I mean, this boat is probably about 1890.
1890.
Yeah,
It's amazing. This is amazing,
it's
isn't it?
been restored. I mean, but the main part of the hull is about 80. Nobody knows. There's no log.
No.
There's nothing.
That's
no
amazing.
information. No builder's number. No, absolutely nothing.
So that's really interesting, because that was a really lovely thing about the Stuart Turner, of course, is that it's got all the numbers on there. When we were judged, they checked that the gearbox has the same number as the engine
You
and
can
stuff.
find all of that, and for a short period of time, the company that I ran, we had the Stuart Turner castings and all the other bits, including the day books when the engines were built. Wow. But they were sold on, and where they've gone to now, I don't know.
But something like this, you just didn't have that advantage at all, so you really got no idea.
Nothing at all.
So how do you go about restoring or keeping one of these on the water? Because clearly, if something breaks or goes wrong,
You have to make it.
yeah, well, exactly. And you don't know that it was the right part in the first place.
No. I mean, the engine on this particular boat is not an original.
Okay.
It's relatively new, but it's still probably 40 years old. The boiler itself is a replica of an original, but again, that's probably 50 years old. I've retubed that once, but that's what they used to look at at the turn of the last century.
That's amazing.
So when you think of the 1890s, that's what these were, because there was nothing else.
Yeah.
Electric was just coming into use. Petrol engines were becoming more popular, and that's when steam died. It just died.
I mean, that's the real shame of it, because there's the kind of the peace, the quiet, the kind of tranquility you get from a steamboat compared to it is a nice hypnotic thump from the Stuart Turner, but it is a thump.
Yeah, when you compare the steamboat to a steam train,
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, it's quite.
Well, these are almost silent.
They are very silent.
And even the passenger boats, which still exist, like Alaska and Windsor Belle, the machinery in those. Well, Alaska's has got the original engine for the boat, original engine, and she's 1880, 1870.
Wow.
So how old is the Cutty Sark? Because I mean,
1868.
so these, I mean, the thing
So
is,
some of
that
the-
feels like distant history to me, and then these boats
some of
came
these
from
are-
there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So
amazing.
Sabrina was 2 years older.
That's incredible. That's
It's
absolutely
amazing boats.
Yeah. So just the shape of the hull, you could be cracking along and she'd make no wash.
Isn't that amazing?
And you only have to look at modern boats now; their wash is terrible. And I say, really, in the future, more modern boats will lend themselves to this shape of hull because they're so slippery. They use such little power to drive them,
Yeah.
and that's the way it will go.
Do you think we'll go back to steam as well? Maybe
No,
with a modern way of making it, perhaps?
No. I think electric's going to be the way it's going to go.
Okay.
But again, you don't need a huge amount of power.
No.
Because again, they're so efficient. Yeah.
It's so efficient.
Yeah,
So a modern AC electric motor, which is possibly what you've got in your boat anyway.
Yes.
Even though I think your one's seen better days, isn't it?
Let's not go there. We can move on to
Yeah,
that. We
okay,
don't need to talk about that.
So those will have a sort of service life of probably 50,000 hours before you need to change the bearings.
Yeah.
You don't need to do anything else to it at all. So 50,000 hours than an average person's used to do with a boat. It's,
Yeah.
I don't know
They-
how many years that would be.
Yeah, they never can do that, are they ever? Well, it's such a lovely boat. Just let me ask you, the boiler, does it need to be certified?
Yeah, the boiler has to be tested by law every 12 months.
Okay.
We get a 2-month extension because in the Merchant Navy you couldn't always be in the port where you could be surveyed, so you'd have a 2-month extension.
Okay, yeah.
So I always get this boiler tested every autumn, just in case there's any problems.
Yeah.
It gives me a chance
little bit
over
of
the
time
winter months
to sort it,
deal
yeah.
with it. So every year it has to be internally inspected, not that you can see much. And every 10 years it has to be completely taken apart. Every valve has to be opened up.
Yep.
All the tubes have to be inspected with thickness gauges, everything.
Wow.
And then put it all back together again. So we test it to 1.5 times its working pressure.
I can
Brilliant.
imagine if one of these things lets go, you'd know about it.
Strangely enough, I did have a tube fail on me,
Oh, wow.
and all it was like a big espresso machine steaming.
Just make coffee.
And basically, the water itself put the fire out, and that was the end of it.
Okay.
So it was exciting at the time,
Yeah.
and very frustrating because it was the beginning of the season, and that's why
You
I
know, do it in the
always intend to have it done in the autumn, just in case. But usually very, very reliable.
Amazing. Well, maybe steam's next, Paul. What do you reckon?
Oh, I'm not too sure about that.
Of course you're not.
So also, I mean, we're using the boat today on the Thames, but just say, for argument's sake, we need to salt water. How would that work?
Well, this particular boat, you could not do that because
Okay.
we're using river water as boiler feed water.
Yep.
In salt water, it would scale up the boiler internally because of the salts in it.
Okay.
If you wanted the steamboat, to go on to salt water, it would have to have a condenser
Yep.
where the steam, once it's gone through the engine, then goes through a condenser which condenses the steam back into water, which is then put through a hot well and then pumped back into the system.
Oh.
So it's like a closed loop.
Like recycling, yeah.
Yes.
So yes, so this is the point. So any steam sort of boat could work on the salt water potentially, but you'd have to always use fresh water. I mean, that's the key.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these boats will have condensers anyway.
Yeah.
So they could potentially go on, but not this particular
No,
one.
not this particular one.
And you'll find Alaska can't do that either. She uses river water as well. But there are a number of steam launches which are on the coast or on the estuary, so they're in brackish water.
Yeah.
So it just depends as to where you want to use it. This is only ever intended for inland waterways, which are typically fresh.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a good way to collect salt, isn't it?
Does it
Everything.
look, there's lots of
really
cars.
good.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. Yeah.
You know, you buy a car from the coast, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just, what have you done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't do the boiler
No,
any
it
good.
doesn't. No, I can see that.
So I'm running it on condensed water. It's like running it on distilled water
Yeah.
because it's all the hardness has gone out of it,
And all the lime and everything else, yeah.
Keep recycling it, and we do use a chemical additive in the boiler, which is basically tannin based, which coats any of the bare patches of steel in tannin, which protects it. So
Okay.
we do that all the time.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah,
That's a
thank
good
you.
tip. We should do that with cars next. That's a good idea. Well,
Yeah.
and maybe that Range Rover chassis.
So tea bags probably are not really a good
Yeah.
need something more substantial.
Okay, really big to you then. Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very
That's
much.
awesome. Stuart Turner built a total of around 100,000 engines between 1915 and 1970. Thankfully today, there are only 4 others competing against us, so let's take a look at some of the competition. John's boat Rita is a similar boat to ours, but it's fitted with a smaller 1.5 horsepower Stuart Turner R3M engine. Although it is less powerful, it is quieter and produces less vibration. You can see it looks quite a bit more original than ours, and in fact it did well in the marking and was given 70 out of 100. Now this beautiful clinker launch named Dawn was built in 1923 with mahogany on an ash frame, and interestingly it's fitted with a 1958 4 horsepower P5M Stuart Turner engine, so it's very similar to ours, but it does have the factory Dynastart with coil ignition and the rare option of a belt guard. We stood no chance against this one, as it also has the original dry exhaust system with the hot coolant from the engine exiting through a skin fitting in the hull, with the exhaust going through a lovely original brass silencer. That's a much tidier looking wooden switch panel too. Dawn also sports a highly polished seacock with the bilge pump function, a second electric bilge pump, and even a third original manual bilge pump. The paint also looks very original and much more intact than ours. In total, Dawn racked up 75 out of 100 points. There were lots of competition classes to award. A job for a local celebrity, but as Ben Fogle was lost in the wild and Jeremy Irons had sloped off to buff his skiff, they asked me to do the honours instead.
The Stuart Turner Trophy is open to all boats with a Stuart Turner engine. This is where we get to Ed's little dark secret. I invited Ed to enter his Stuart-powered lovely clinker launch, which you may have seen on his YouTube channel. And Ed's response was, wow, do you think I might win? I said, absolutely not, from what I've seen. He was good enough to enter it, and he gets even more points for standing there and giving away what he'd love to have won. 2. Dawn, owned by John Mars. Congratulations.
Teaching of engineering amongst youngsters and actually making the rest of the world understand what beautiful engineering is about. And right now, I can't think of any more deserving person than Ed China.
What an absolutely amazing show.
Yeah, it was. I think the highlight of my day really was the lunch. The cod and chips was fantastic. No, but seriously, going out on the Alvis stall walk, 6-wheel amphibious vehicle, what a fantastic thing. 8-cylinder, 6.5 litre Rolls-Royce engine. I think it revs to like 4,000 RPM. It was amazing, but it sat so low in the water, I actually thought it was going to sink.
Yeah, they do kind of look like they're about to go dive, don't they? Quite
and
amazing.
Also all the other amphibious vehicles. What a fantastic turnout.
But also all of those traditional boats, I mean, I've never seen quite so much polished varnish in one place.
I know, each one was a work of art, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think that might have been why we didn't do quite so well with our very own Stuart Turner Award there, because obviously I think coming, what was it, fourth in about 3 places.
Listen, that's good. It's your first year. There's always next year.
Yes, but the really good thing was, of course, we found out so much more about the boat and also where we can get some more parts. I've got a new crank handle, so that's ready.
What a nice guy he was.
Dr. Ed was wonderful, actually.
All those spare parts.
Yeah,
still
and it's
available.
good to know that we can keep this thing alive for longer, which is brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant.
But you know what? Out of the whole weekend, which was very special, the most special moment had to be when I was awarded the Sir William McAlpine Award. I mean, that is so special.
Yeah, well done you.
It means a lot, which is lovely. Well, I guess we've got a year or so just to actually raise our game so we can go for that competition again. That should be right, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it's more than enough time.
Yeah, fantastic. See you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks for stopping by the workshop. If you enjoyed the video even just a little bit, then click like. If you hated it, well then click like 3 times. Also remember to leave your thoughts and your questions in the comments. And obviously we'd love to see you again soon, so please remember to click subscribe if you haven't already, and click the bell for notifications of when the next video is published or when I have some intriguing news.